This is the Nairobi of today. Up every major street, a sprawling shopping center, a multi-storied mall, or huge entertainment complexes. Global research firm Nielsen named Kenya Africa's second largest formalized retail economy after South Africa. Real estate consultancy Knight Frank also identified its capital, Nairobi, as one of the top 5 cities in sub-Saharan Africa for shopping center developments. What's driving this is Kenya's growing young, upwardly mobile, and affluent middle class.
It's become a very competitive space. I mean, the margins in the retail sector are anywhere from 3 to 4%. So if you're going to get anything, you have to be extremely efficient, extremely robust. Your governance structures must be very clear.
A 2016 survey by consumer goods company Procter & Gamble found that retail spending was up 13% to $17.62 billion US. About 67% of that spending goes to the smaller traditional retail stores who dominate the FMCG sector. Players like Tuskys, Naivas, Chandarana, Quickmart, Eastmart and Tumaini target the lower income earners. But supermarkets and hypermarkets are catching up fast, taking up about 30% of retail spending. Tier 1 players like Carrefour, Nakumatt and Uchumi are moving in on the higher-end consumers in residential areas as their buying power increases. And just 3% is going into special channels, such as e-commerce platforms like Yum and Jumia. But all that growth and progress in Kenya's retail sector is overshadowed by the fall and the near death of two of the country's supermarket giants, Nakumatt and Uchumi. Once beacons of success in East Africa's retail sector, it puzzles even the experts why the two are now facing near death. And what exactly was behind their fall? Was it poor governance or the downsides of rapid expansion?
Essentially, these were issues around corporate governance. There wasn't any. If you look deeply into the situation at Uchumi, one CEO, for example's wife was doing 50% of the procurement. It makes no sense. It's nonsense. It's not corporate governance of any kind. So I think you've got clearly cases like Uchumi, which was suboptimal, relying on this constant merry-go-round of going back cap in hand to the government, not having a proper business plan.
Uchumi was the first to fall on hard times. The 40-plus-year-old company was placed into receivership in 2006 with debts of over $20 million US. That ended in 2010 after most of the company's debts were cleared and converted into shares. The chain has struggled since then, shutting down most of its major stores in the region.
Definitely, Uchumi moving forward requires equity injection in the business and possibly a balance sheet restructuring, which is something in progress. Because you've got to look at the short, medium, and long-term goals of Uchumi. Short-term is really about survival, because we've got to now keep the company going, be able to pay, to make our monthly obligations, to make timely payments of monthly obligations, which is salaries, rentals. As now we pursue the medium and long-term goals, because in the medium-term goals becomes the business must be sustainable, at least at the operating expense level. In the long term, now you've got to focus on expansion.
How are you ensuring that you don't make the same mistakes of the past?
I don't believe the business has had the right capital structure to finance its expansion model, personally, if you look at the history before. And that must be addressed because to a large extent, suppliers are the ones who've been affected because in previous situations, they've actually been, the money that has been used to expand and get into this financial struggle has actually been money from suppliers.
But for Uchumi's biggest rival, Nakumatt, there may not be light at the end of the tunnel. Nakumatt had 63 stores in 4 East African nations at the end of 2016. Today, it is facing a severe cash crunch that has led to the closure of all its flagship branches in the region. The firm now owes its suppliers almost $300 million US. A move to merge with a smaller player, Tuskys, failed after it was rejected by the Competition Authority of Kenya. Since then, it has not been able to secure a strategic investor to pump in the capital it so desperately needs.
These businesses have been on their deathbed. They've been waiting for the priest to pronounce the last rites. The fact that the priest was somewhere else does not mean these businesses are suddenly going to miraculously step up. They're not. Totally over, dead and buried. Unfortunately, very big losses, particularly in the case of Nakumatt, across the board.
It is certainly a period of massive change in Kenya's supermarket space. And here's what it looks like today. While Tier 1 local retail chains saddled with debt struggle to stay afloat, deep-pocketed foreign chains are now leading the race for Kenya's premium upmarket. Meanwhile, the smaller local retailers are taking over the low and middle-class areas, as well as the central business district. Uchiro Koronkwa, CGTN, Nairobi.